Okay, good afternoon. It's been a tiring day, and I would actually request everyone to kindly close their eyes for a minute and not listen to anything that anyone has to say or touch their mobiles. Can we do that for a second? Just close your eyes. I'll ask you to open as well, but I just want you to kindly close your eyes. Take your hand and put it on your heart. Okay, we're good. Did any of us actually hear our heartbeat? Yeah, we can all feel our heartbeat, but how many of us actually realize that we don't hear our heartbeat most of the time? That's what most of the CIOs are today. They are the heartbeats of the business. And what I actually wanted to get everyone to feel is their own heart. That's the biggest thing that we have. And IT is the heart for 90% of businesses today, probably even more. Coming back to Strategium, coming back to what we have been here for, I didn't want to actually discuss what Riverbed does or what we can do. What I wanted to present an actual business case study that we have done. Okay, that was nice, right? And what we did is, doing a quick, I'll actually thank one of my clients, I wouldn't name them, who actually helped me a lot of these business cases were built by them, and I've actually taken inputs from them. Which brings me to a simple question of what are the current areas of concern that impact business or that impact various reasons. Yesterday we had musical table without the music. A lot of you participated in that, right? Moving from table to table, discussing the different aspects. One of the simple questions was connectivity. Second was frequent bandwidth upgrades. And bandwidth upgrades were required because of multiple reasons. We all know that. Second is end user complaints, application slowness, pretty common complaints. Third, not so common, but yes, even after centralization, people still have issues with storage consolidation. They still have remote data storage available at different sites. They still have remote backup infrastructure with which they back up. Fourth, they generally have issues with business continuity planning, R&D setups, all of that. Another very common question was visibility. A lot of visibility, control, management of all the infrastructure around the world was pretty important. A lot of business has started moving to e-commerce, coming back to SureTech, where you're actually looking at doing that. If I'm going into e-commerce, all of that business, how do I make a difference? And finally, there are new business challenges, meeting new requirements of application rollouts, a lot of stuff which actually impact business. So, with which we invited the client, we understood the environment, that were the pain areas, and we said, okay, fine, let us do a POC. And before we started the POC, the architectural setup that we set up was something like this, where we placed some Riverbed devices at some sites, at the data center, at the remote site, and a few clients for mobile users. This is the major current traffic pattern that was there with the client before we actually started looking at optimization. It was pretty decent traffic, 3.6 terabyte of data over a period of 1 month flowing over the WAN. Similarly, for other side, there was about 2 terabytes of data and an average of 15.3 GB of data flowing across to the data center per minute. What was more important to make a business case was, what am I going to achieve out of that? So he said, can I actually measure productivity? Can I actually measure response time? He said, yes, let's measure that. And this were the standard response times they had. I wouldn't go much on that, but yes, these are the standard response times. Post-deployment, this was the scenario. At an average, what we could do was reduce a lot of data that was flowing over the WAN with our very basic WAN optimization. What we could also do is improve response times. Response times coming down from 13 seconds to 1 second. Okay, Response time coming from 6 seconds to 4.3 seconds. Does an end user actually realize, or does it actually make an impact from IT perspective to bring down 6 seconds to 4.3 seconds? No, right? The user doesn't feel the difference of that 0.9 nanoseconds, right? The user wouldn't even understand that difference. But if these transactions are over every transaction level, over a period of time, it actually accumulates into a lot of savings. The client, I believe, wanted us to say, okay, what are your findings? What are the observations that you had after you did this? We were able to optimize the traffic considerably, as expected. What was not expected is, what is the bandwidth capacity upgrades that they were able to achieve using the Riverbed solution? He did a reverse calculation, and it was 4 to 7 times his bandwidth capacity that he was able to achieve. I don't have to give cost calculations. I think we all understand bandwidth is pretty cheap. But even then, if you have to actually increase your bandwidth to 7 times, it still probably cost you something. Even then, even if you increase it, you do not actually get that response time improvement, which was ideally 2 times or more for most of the applications in that client environment. One other unique thing was we were actually able to prove the client scenario was such that they had remote infrastructure wherein at certain locations they had pretty bad connectivity issues. There were issues with connectivity and they still wanted to continue, for which they had actually kept local servers, local applications, and local storage there. We were able to remove all of that, centralize them, and yet people at the remote site were able to continuously keep working. Pretty amazing at half the cost. What was unique is we helped them with their client mobile, the client solutions, the dealer management solutions. I shouldn't use the word dealer because then it becomes very specific to an industry. But a lot of the people who were moving around, we were able to increase their response times considerably. Unfortunately, we were not able to measure it because a lot of the senior management was using who didn't want anything to be embedded in their solution. The data center side, we were able to measure an average increase of 3x performance improvement for all users moving around anywhere around the world with a data center or very limited connectivity. The business actually related to 6.9 times improvement on the way an end customer or a customer of that business was accessing their website, the speed improvement of that customer. All this does relate to business. And probably I'll just put that up in a minute. But his final thing was, how do I get complete visibility and how do I know what you're saying is true? And Anil sir, thank you yesterday. Anil sir, Kaushik sir, you're there? Yeah. Thank you yesterday for actually sharing with us how the whole A to Z of an application works. Right? This is what our proposed solution was, wherein we had our flagship optimization placed at the data center. They actually moved on to a cloud environment as well for certain applications. We helped them remove all of the remote infrastructure from the remote sites, centralize that, secure it at one site because you don't have remote infrastructure anymore, and the mobile clients were able to work much faster, including the end customers. Anil sir, this is for you. He actually explained yesterday when we were discussing, he said, if I have to have complete visibility of an environment, starting from an end user who might be in my intranet, who might not be in my WAN environment, who might be an external customer, I need to know that, I need to know the network, which is right, not in under our control 90% of the time. And after that, I actually need to understand the application environment, which means I might have a web tier, I might have an app tier, I might have a services tier, and then I have databases. Only if I have complete end-to-end visibility will I have and know the root cause of any issue. And yes, we are able to provide that as a single vendor today. Riverbed today is the only vendor who has the Gartner's leaders for actually both application performance monitoring and network performance monitoring. So we are able to do that. I just wanted a quick slide on this, where and how we removed the branch infrastructure. So we were able to remove all of the servers and put a virtual image of it on the Riverbed platform. On top of that, we were able to consolidate all the storage, bring it back to the SAN at the data center, and just project a LUN to the remote site. Something that VDI did to desktop, we were able to do with servers and storage. So we decoupled. We broke both the storage and the compute. So you could actually place infrastructure where you needed. Which means we had just 4 or 5 solutions which actually delivered all of this, although we can deliver much more. The Steelhead was one of them. Along with the Steel Fusion, we had the mobile clients for all the remote sites. We were able to bring in an application layer quality of service using the same Steelhead solution. We were actually able to provide end-to-end visibility and monitoring for all parameters, which goes even up to a browser level that a customer is using, and up to the source code in the applications. We're able to actually provide them with something that we call as application path selection. A lot of people use load balancing. But since we understand applications, you can actually decide which application flows over which WAN network you want. And then, even in case of a failure, it will automatically shift into the other network. And of course, the mobile client environment. What makes it difficult is the ROI justification. My business will always ask me, what is my ROI? This is an actual case, so every case would not be on a similar platform. The client did invest about $500,000, and his payback period was about 7.63 months. Although IDC claims that Riverbed pays back in 4 months, in India, due to our bandwidth pricing, due to the way we look at cost, slightly more. This is how we actually broke it down. The bandwidth savings are not much, if you actually notice. But the savings come from productivity experience. How do we improve productivity? The productivity was actually measured estimating only 12 minutes of saving of an employee. It's not much. If I look at the IT/ITS industry, I know Kapil is here, a lot of people from the IT/ITS industry. We actually, when we go in for business, we look at the resources required at the back end and then give a cost out to the next client. If I can actually reduce the number of resources required, my cost comes down. That's how we generally do the business, right? So if I'm relating it to business, productivity is very high. And that is what makes a business case. It is not on bandwidth savings that Riverbed makes the business cases. This is what IDC actually had to say. They believe that we can pay back in 4.3 months. In India, it's slightly higher. What was required was that the client wanted us to suggest what are the alternate solutions for the remote branch infrastructure. I have already made investments. I have remote infrastructure there. And because this was a genuine client requirement, so I put it across there. Basically, people have servers, storage, replication software, all of that. Or they have file servers and a tape library and the required software to do the backups. The difference is you can back up centrally using Riverbed. You can actually provision centrally using the same solution. It's a single box, so you're not worried anymore. Your security is not a concern. You're able to leverage your existing SAN capabilities that are there. The RTO and the RPO what are unique is that you will be having a continuous and instant RTO RPO. This is the global validation. I think we all are aware that Riverbed has, in terms, been the leader for WAN optimization, probably with 90% more market share than most of the vendors. This is the other one which actually states that we are the only people in the APM and the NPM category. So you have network and you have applications. We're able to monitor both. There's some of my Indian clients, which brings me to, can I take a minute or two extra? I've just run out. I would like to request someone who's using Riverbed today to please speak on our behalf, and that would be the end of my show, right? I wouldn't have adequate time, but can anyone from the crowd please speak if you have used Riverbed? No. Sir, can we have a mic, please? I have not optimized myself today. Otherwise, generally I would finish.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Myself, I'm Pratap Gharge from Bajaj Electricals. We have been using Riverbed for last 1 year or so in our DR and primary setup, where we felt that when we wanted to do a DR and when replication data bandwidth requirement was shooting up drastically, we did POC with them and we started using it, and we got almost like what he said, 4 to 7 times, 7 times less bandwidth requirements, and also a complete reduction in this RPO and RTO kind of a things. Looking at this performance, we also decided to extend it further, where another problem we were facing is after moving to O365, there is again a huge bandwidth requirements because of the lag involved. Their servers are far away in Singapore. So there again, we have done POC and we have started implementation. That is not yet implemented, but for O365 also, and a mobile client, that another solution we have started doing. Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you, sir. Vinay, thank you all. Vinay, can we at least have a gift of appreciation? Thank you all.